Hello, everyone, and welcome to How Do Artists, a show that focuses on a single topic of conversation and asks the question, how do artists live, work, play, run their business, stay inspired, or handle challenges and adversity from an artist's perspective? Our show will speak with a diverse group of artists and creatives, and you, as our listeners, will have a chance to ask your questions during our live Q&A segment towards the end of our show. I'm your host, Karlana Pierson, artist and illustrator, and I am joined by co-host Ryan Caldwell, musician and producer. Hey, Ryan.
Thank you, Karlana. Our guest today is Thomas Pierson. Thomas Matthew Pierson is an amateur powerlifter, a visual artist, an art educator, a husband, a father. And Matt attended St. Charles Community College and earned a BFA in painting and art history from the Memphis College of Art in Memphis, Tennessee, and an Man, I'm going to stumble over these. You have a lot of degrees. It's impressive.
You do.
Yeah. Matt has served as an adjunct professor of art since 2015 at St. Charles Community College in Missouri, where he teaches drawing and 2D design. His work has been featured in curated and juried exhibits throughout the St. Louis region, including 9 shows at Art St. Louis since 2007, a solo exhibition of his work at BYO, Bring Your Own Burgers, BYOB, Bring Your Own Burgers, missed the acronym. It was presented at the William and Florence Schmidt Art Center in Belleville, Illinois in 2019. And he was one of 3 artists featured in an Art St. Louis curated exhibit at the Engad Arts Hotel. His works are included in private collections throughout the area. And our conversation for today is, how do artists get motivated?
Yes.
Did I miss anything?
That was long.
I missed some stuff. Yeah.
I didn't realize you're going to just narrate it. I would have shortened it up for you. I'd made an abbreviated version. I definitely would have done that. Or if I knew, actually, I could have just made it longer. Like, he's going to talk. He's going to say the whole thing. I'm going to make 40 minutes worth of this.
You know what? Hey, next time you're on, game on.
Oh my gosh. That'd be funny.
You could just like put like a recipe for like falafel in the middle of it.
No. I like falafel.
Well, yeah. So let's jump right into it. So let's talk about motivation. So motivation has been defined as the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way, or the general desire or willingness of someone to do something. And today we are absolutely talking about the second one of those. So everyone struggles with it from time to time, and artists are no exception. Have you ever had issues staying motivated, Matt?
Of course. That's the short answer. We all have issues being motivated, right? Now, how do you break through it is really
that's the thing.
Question.
Well, how many times have you had those issues? If you had to count them.
Well, I believe when we were talking, we're spitballing these ideas. I was making the analogy of like a snowball.
Yeah.
Where when you get that momentum, that inertia going, it just builds up, right? And then, maybe life hits you in it, like smacks you, like, oh, you got to do this now, and then or something stops that momentum, and what happens is, for me, I used to be like, well, it's going to take me a long time to build that back up. Right. It's going to take me a long time to build that back up.
Yeah.
But through time, you get used to mitigating that, right? You get back on the horse. You're able to start that snowball effect faster and quicker each time. Now, I don't have I don't have I don't have a number for you, but but let's just say it's a never ending case of motivational problems.
Yeah. And well, I mean, and that's one of the other hard thing with the motivation stuff is just the fact that there's so many different angles to it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we look at it like a simple problem, right? It's like, just do the thing, but it's a combination of a lot of different situational and environmental stuff and also personal stuff. Yeah. And it can be really tricky. Like even like switching gears between tasks. That's a really hard one. Like you were just talking about.
There's like, what was it? There's been some studies. I'll like pull out these like studies. These like, there's some studies going on that I read. Actually, I don't know. I don't have the like. Was it the Pub MD or like the Web MD or those user verified or doctor verified articles saying this is a fact because they've been verified or like checked by all these other doctors. But like, there's some studies that been stated that it's really hard to multitask, like switch from one top thing to another over and over again. Like if you're to not like driving and listen to music, but like doing complex actions that require your attention, and focus.
Well, and basically, I think I'm remembering that too. It's like it's kind of like you can only actually multitasking is just focusing on one thing kind of serially. So you just switch between the thing you're focusing on, and everything else is just the automatic part of your brain is taken care of. So you're not actually thinking about it or focusing on it, which is interesting. It's basically all autopilot stuff.
I think it depends on what it is. I think I've noticed from my own personal experience, I can autopilot or do something that's more of a rote like action that doesn't require any mental bandwidth. But if I'm actually sitting down and trying to figure out a situation or trying to actually put attention into something, then I can't really shift in that way to multitask, because then something gets not done. Something gets put to the side. And usually it's whatever requires your most attention or immediate attention, that everything else gets put to the side then. But for like normal things, like, or things that don't require that mental like agility, I mean, doing the dishes and doing this and doing that and all that stuff. I mean, I think it depends on what it is you're doing.
No, that does. Actually, that was there was this book I read called Thinking Fast and Slow. It was by Daniel Kahneman, and he had a really, because he'd been researching. He's a psychological researcher and has been since like the 70s, and so he just compiled this whole book on his findings, and how he was classifying it is like your system 1 brain and your system 2 brain, and your system 1 brain is the part of your brain that's like everything that you are not actively thinking about, which is way more than we give ourselves credit for. Is like 90% of everything we do is that, because you don't like the parts of the drive you don't remember, or that
Right.
Yeah, that sort of stuff.
Things that are muscle memory in the sense.
And right, and that part of your brain can do multitasking. That part of your brain is always multitasking, but also that part of your brain is just kind of like a pre-programmed algorithm sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the system 2 brain stuff is like the laziest part of your brain that wants to do the least amount of effort possible. Which is also why it's so...
Where's the part of your brain that's like on fire that stays motivated? I think that's what we all want to know, right? Where's that brain?
I don't think there's a part of your brain that stays motivated.
All right, so hence why we're doing a podcast on how to get motivated.
Yeah,
like you got to define like what's your end result, what's your goal, like a little bit to kind of.
What motivates you though? What motivates you? I mean, you've got a lot of stuff going on, right? You've got kids, you've got your work, you've got your painting. What is motivating you?
So I think of I was listening to a podcast, an audiobook, and going back to the like, let's say you want to lose weight. You're motivated to lose weight. This is a statement from a book, right? David Goggins, right? And he says, you want to go for a run, but like it's raining outside or it's cold. Like, those running shoes don't look as good now. Right. And no one, you got to build up some sort of like mental stamina to kind of slowly nudge yourself into those shoes. But what motivates me is some like little mental tricks. So I just learned about this. I don't know, like terminology for it. Was it habit stacking? I think I've heard it a couple times.
That's interesting.
So like this, like Jerry Seinfeld, I think I talked about this in one of my podcasts. Jerry Seinfeld was he'd come up with a joke a day, and he'd like draw an X, a big giant red X on his calendar, and he knew if he didn't draw a red X on that calendar, he didn't write a joke. Or another habit can be made through, you have a jar and you do said action for that goes to your said goal, right? Whatever it is, like I'm going to do 10 push-ups, or I'm going to do a push-up. You put a penny in that jar, right? And then pretty soon that jar fills up, right? So what's motivating me is I'm trying to do something kind of like that, where I'm seeing a visual cue that's showing me progress. So it's really dumb, but it's so simple. Right now, I'm trying things out, but this is a new thing, and it's taking a journal and just listing out every day that I'm going to draw, and then put an X on it. It's like day 1, draw, day 2, and don't miss that day, right? Reiteration, write it down over and over again.
Yeah.
And then
I like that. And there's something to that.
Well, I've been doing something similar to that, where it's less of that kind of point to point, make sure you do it every day thing. And it's more of, I just have like a weekly log and report I do every week, where I go and recount exactly what I did the prior week, and then go and figure out what am I doing this week, and then have my to-do list and all that stuff going on. But it's nice because if I do, like, I've been trying to make that into a habit just so I can stay organized and on top of everything. And it's been really good, especially when you go and see like your entire folder full of these logs, like
a weekly audit.
Kind of.
Yeah. And what it boils down to, like, to me, is not necessarily motivation in its strict definition, but setting up like a habit that gets you to that motivational definition, like that term. Well, when you are doing these things through repetition or habit stacking, you kind of manifest those what's it called, motivations. They start becoming real, I guess. I don't know.
Well, right. with like habit stacking, so that's like building habits is contingent on discipline, right?
Yeah.
Plenty of people throw out discipline like this, like end all be all solution for every problem, right? It's just if you have discipline, you will just own the world, kind of that idea. But what's your? Because I know you're a power lifter, and that takes a lot of discipline. What's your relationship with discipline?
Oh, can I say powerlifting's horrible. it's not fun. Like after a while, it's like I'm not even that good. Like I'm like so my numbers compared to like the elites. I'm like, oh gosh, forget it. But like it can be rough sometimes to know, like, oh gosh. This is as of late, but I'm I gotta put that weight on my shoulder, and that's gonna be rough. Oof. Like, it's gonna be rough. I'm not gonna want to do it. But how do you get past that? Well, first, like, put your gym shoes on, I guess. Like right now, I have a gym in the basement, so like, well, I just go in the basement, and then, well, I'm here. Let's start this, and then stare at the bar for a couple minutes, and then as the weight gets higher and higher, you stare at the bar longer and longer, and then eventually you're just like, it's only 5 seconds. It's only like 10 seconds, but it's 10 seconds of terrible. I don't awfulness. It's just bad.
Well, I mean, it's 10 seconds of your body literally being ripped apart.
Yeah, it's 10 seconds of that feeling like you're being shredded. And,
which you are. Like, that is
yeah.
exactly what is happening.
Yeah. On a micro level, your muscle fibers are being shredded. Yeah.
Right. So it's not supposed to feel good, I guess.
It doesn't feel good. Yeah, it does not feel good at all.
Well, every day that or every your time it. Not every day, because you obviously can't get in there and do that every day.
Karlana, repeat that one more time. You did some interesting. You made some interesting noises.
You turned into a robot.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I said. So you are doing that on the days that you are scheduled to work out. What is it that is keeping you in your headspace to where even though something like that is like just not fun, you're still doing it anyway? I mean, is it the one step at a time method for you, or is it, I mean, for me, I feel like I just can't think about it. I have to allow myself to be more of a robot and just do it, as opposed to giving my thought to it. Because if I give my thought to it, I'm going to talk myself out of it.
There's truth to that. There was this lady who wrote this book. It's called like 5-second rule, where like you just go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you do the thing that you don't want to do.
You just do it,
and you don't let your subconscious take a hold and start psyching you out. And
is that what you do?
Sometimes, like let's it's gonna be, do it now or do it later, right?
Yeah.
And later never comes.
Yeah.
For me, it doesn't.
That
later never
Band-Aid
comes.
off. Yeah.
It never really. I mean, again, it's about how you are thinking about things, I suppose. What other tricks are you using to get into the studio and paint? Even, I mean, you have a very young daughter, right?
What are the tricks that I'm using to get in the studio? Just willing it to be. So, well, like all this stuff's kind of like philosophical, where you want to be an artist. Well, you got to draw, or you got to sculpt. You want to be a musician. You got to play instruments. So you just got to understand that that's going to be part of the can I say, I don't know, I can't say that's got to be part. I want to say is how family friendly is this?
Like think PG-13.
Oh yeah, okay. I don't want to be like, okay, you got to get used to the suck, right?
Yeah.
For the longest while, I mean, I was getting up at 4. That sucked. That sucked so much.
What was
I fully feel your pain.
I was gonna say, what was the suck coefficient on that?
How much did it suck?
How much did it suck? Oh, I don't know. It was up. Well, it was for a long period, like a year or so. So like it was pretty rough. So it sucked so hard. It was just a very, very, very hard time. But you had to make that sacrifice to get work done, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So like motivation's tricky. Like I'm motivated to make art. I'm not motivated to make art at 4, 5, 6 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
It's you gotta have something outside to kind of propel you forward.
Well, wait, like the sun, or because that's not there at 4 either. That's
no. Yeah, no. Coffee would help. Coffee helps quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
I guess having some external goal, would help. I've heard setting projects, like don't just say, oh, I want to improve at X, or I want to get better at this, or I want to start doing this. Well, I hear setting some sort of external goal. For me, it's the journal and the tangible side of seeing me checking off something the day, saying I did that today. And if Some people will do like, oh, you want to get in shape? Well, some people are going like, well, you need some sort of goal. So they have to have, they apply for or join a gym, and then they go to, what do you have to do to get into a 5K? I don't even know. You have to they enroll or enter. Is it enroll or enter a 5K?
Enter
Or sign up for
either
one.
Sign up for a 5K.
Yeah, you got to do that, and you do the thing, and then you're at a 5K. So you know, or you some
unless
people,
you don't show up because you weren't motivated.
I hear some.
They're
really
expensive though.
Yeah, I hear some really interesting things about setting motivations. Like, some people will set their like Twitter account to say some really personal stuff unless they wake up at that time and cancel it. You know.
Oh, what was the other one? Virtual running buddies. That's a thing. Like basically having an accountability buddy is another one I've heard of, where it's like basically you get up when you're supposed to get up and run and text the other person.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So then you're accountable to another actual human being who's depending on you. That's a big motivation.
But you got to make sure that person is equally motivated, right? Because if they don't really care about you waking up at 5 a.m,
you do have to pick your accountability buddy wisely.
Or there's ones like the same premise where they set up their Twitter account as like, I'm going to be up at this time. If I'm not, feel free to send me a link to a donation to a charity, and I'll give a set amount of money. So it hits their pocketbook as well. You know, so. But if you're like really wealthy, I guess that wouldn't really bother you so much. Oh well, I'll just pay the charity and sleep in. But if you have some sort of goal, I guess you know you're going to want to be motivated to wake up at that time. I don't know what's the external like thing that's forcing someone to do X, right? For me, it's like I don't have any other time to do artwork, and this window I have is the time frame, and so I have to allocate time. Whether I get enough sleep or not is irrelevant, and then sometimes I miss that beat, and then you're just feeling down and out for the rest of the day because you're not able to achieve your like your little like morning quota, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, specifically like getting something done like right out of the gate's huge. You know, there's like a bunch of these like that's like one of the first things they say. Well, here's how to overcome depression or not getting things done or stuff like that. Which is like wake up and make your bed. Just do that. Just get one thing done and then keep going.
Yeah, that's the snowball effect.
Well, yeah, set the ball super low. Set the bar way low.
Yeah.
Super low, and then you'll feel good about yourself when you get all the easy stuff out of the way.
Well, it's definitely more productive than the opposite effect.
No, that's true. That's true.
Although I hate making beds. I think I don't know. I'm not a massive fan. I've been doing it because I like to better myself, but it's like I'm just gonna mess it. I'm just gonna mess it up again. I don't.
Psychological, it's nice to have the bed made, though.
Oh yeah, no, it's super nice.
I know. I love that. I love that. Okay, so now, Matt, what does motivation? How do you use flow? How do you use the flow state to help with motivation? We kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. Can you give us a little information on that, or
but first for our audience members who perhaps might be ignorant to what flow state is.
I just learned about it recently, so I'm very curious.
But flow state is just like a neurological state that is when you are like hyper focused. Everyone's experienced it at some point in time, but it's basically just being in the zone. It's that state of hyper focus where you're like ultra productive as well.
Yeah. Yes. So I guess part of the flow is like it boils down to for me it boils down to like setting down enough time to get to a point where you're working and the outside surroundings don't matter so much. Like you're able to focus on the task at hand. And
How do you do that?
I
mean, you have little ones in your house and at home and kids, and
Not very well. I need like 30 minutes to an hour of continuous hammering at the task, where my lazy self is saying, "You don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. Hey, there's coffee downstairs. Drink some more of that." Yeah. And after that, just go back to your bed, lay down there. It's cozy. You have an hour of sleep. No one's getting up for right now. Just hang out there. And no, I'm like, I was like, I gotta draw. I'm gonna draw through it. I'm gonna draw through that barrier. And then once you get through that barrier, everything's like, now things are making sense. I'm able to see. I'm able to focus on the task at hand. So like when I say task at hand, it's like when you're drawing. When you're drawing, there's this thing where there's sight, right? And sometimes you're not seeing the object well because you're not focusing, you're not seeing those relationships visually. And after a while, like the tunnel vision or the blur or the mask is taken off, and I'm able to notice those nuances, but it takes a little bit of time, right? It takes me to focus on the objects long enough that I'm no longer distracted by the outside world. And because of external forces always tugging at us, you know, the lazy strings always tugging at us, the responsibilities that we have always tugging at us, saying, oh, you got to do this. Oh, I got to go grocery shopping. Oh, I got to do this. Oh, I got to email this person. Oh, I got to grade these papers or grade this homework. Oh, I got to respond to this person ASAP. And you know, it's like those 2 minute, those things that take like 2 minutes, but you're like, oh, if I do this right now, I can go back to focus on this. But as again, like it's like when you do that, you come and you go back to focusing on your task, you're
out of pocket.
Yeah, your deep work. It takes you another 5 minutes to get back into that state of flow, or get back in that state of seeing things.
Actually, I think
as a visual artist,
there was a study I read that said it was actually 7 minutes.
Oh, 7 minutes. Yeah. So, and yeah, there's a lot of tricks that are going that I haven't done. I probably should, because like I'll do a lot of digital work, right? And you have access to the YouTube, and there's just a unlimited amount of just
distractions,
silly entertainment there. I hear you can like you can and it like you can spend 5 minutes on it, you can spend 5 hours on it. It could be the same thing over and over again. So you, like it's this
it just is a bottomless well of entertainment, and it's like like, and the part of your brain's like, how dare you deprive me of that? I could vegetate forever. Yeah,
and so there you can set up your web browser to only show, it doesn't show any of the updates, the feed on YouTube.
Yeah,
or there's apps for that, or like, you know, I probably should do that to mitigate distractions, because you know, it boils down to drawing. It's lovely. It's awesome. I love drawing. You know, if I had 4 hours where I didn't have any obligations, I'd be all for it. But like, I have obligations all the time outside of drawing, outside of art, outside of it, just way too much. And with those there tugging on me mentally, it's very easy to get out of there, get out of that state. So just allocating that time in the morning and sitting there, and sometimes being a little bit selfish. I feel really bad about it, you know, being a new father and having a daughter, right? That I need like 20 minutes. Just give me I'm like 20 more minutes and I'll be done and it'll be great. Because I'm in, like, my visual synapses are just firing, my hands moving the way that I want it to, because it takes, after like a while, you got to warm up. I mean,
get into the groove.
I mean, musicians have to do that, right? You have to do a little bit of like playing around with notes before you actually start. You're just like, you're not jumping into your your songs right then and there, or at least
Well,
I'm assuming that.
So for the stuff I do, because I'm doing producing at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of that stuff, it's kind of like I almost have to go and just be in the studio and just work on other stuff that's non-creative until I kind of go and get my workflow going, and then my mind's warmed up and I can actually go and hit the ground running. Otherwise, I'm just kind of staring at a session file, just being like.
Well, do you have a large chunk of chime? Do you have chimes?
I do have some chimes.
You would have to have
chunky chimes.
They're so chunky. No, you would have to have. Do you have a large block of time that you're able to spend in your studio to do those things, or is it like
only when I'm lucky?
Yeah. So like,
yeah, and that's the hardest part, and it's the other thing is like there's elements of it there's elements of it that I get way more excited for than others too, and that's the hard part, And I think every artist has that. There's the stuff that's there's making like there's stretching canvases, and then there's actually painting on them, that kind of
right.
Idea. Yeah,
and
so
totally.
there's I'll just kind of like the
rather
BS
be
work.
painting.
Well, right, and so for me, one of those things is mixing. Like, I feel I'm good at mixing at this point, and I do enjoy it to an extent, but it's also one of those things where it doesn't excite me necessarily. I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna go and mix this and make it perfect, and then I'm done. I'm done. Then I have to go and listen to it on a bunch of different speakers, and then realize how bad of a job I did. Then go back and fix it. But it's like it's the musical equivalent of color correction.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness.
Which I do not.
Photographer.
Well, it's like, and I don't envy artists on that at all. It's like, how do you make sure your colors are the right colors on all the monitors?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Or you're trying to color correct an image, especially like an image someone gave you. Can you fix this? And you're like,
oh man. Well,
Macs and PCs look different in colors.
Of course
they do.
Let alone every single monitor.
And then Retina looks completely different than anything outside of Retina because it's dealing with so many additional dots and pixels. So it's harder to.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other fun part. But I digress. I can go and complain about my problems all day. But but no, it's like one of those things where I know exactly what you mean though. It's like you almost have to. One sort of process I was able to really get fast at getting into that zone with was it was when I was working more heavily with this group called Shady Play that I was in, and we were doing like jazz covers of like pop and rock songs and stuff like that, but like old school jazz. And it was my task to go and reharmonize these. So just strip out the chords, plug in new ones, and just see how badly I can mess it up. And for that stuff, I could effectively go and just slay one of those in like 20, 30 minutes. Because I just get into it and start dinking around. Within like 5 minutes, I'm already there. So
right.
Yeah. But, it does have to be a completely quiet environment. I have to be dedicated to just doing that middle of the day. I can't be thinking about like what I have to do later or what I'm going to have for dinner or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess I'm kind of jealous of like the artist or the musician or a photographer, any of the creative fields where they have no problem jumping into it and they love exactly what they're doing, and I'm like you don't have any points of friction in your artwork at all, or in your professional creative field, or maybe they're just lying. Maybe they're lying to me. Like I don't have it. I love my work so much. There's nothing I would change of it. And
man.
For me, there's always friction. I'm like always, and I think it boils down to just like the time of day. And
that makes a huge difference.
I was thinking about this when I was drawing one morning. I was like, man, it's like waking up to draw in the morning. I think I posted this. Like waking up to draw in the morning is like waking up and immediately having to run 5 miles. Just like you wake out of your bed, and you just start running, and like it's not going to work too well. There's that
Although I know
to get
people
through.
who do that.
Yeah.
But once you do it though, there's nothing like that. The energy high you get is like it's morning and you have morning energy, but then you also have like you just did something creative energy. I was doing that for a bit with this synthesizer thing I brainstorm on, and I go and take ideas off of that and use them later. But I can whip out one of those little ideas in like 15 minutes. But generally speaking, I was doing that before I went to bed. But then I realized that it would get my gears going too much right before I was trying to sleep, and that wasn't productive. So. But I need to get back into doing that every morning because, drinking a cup of coffee, rattle that off, 15 minutes, done, moving on with my day. And it's that same thing you were talking about earlier where it's, it goes and actually makes like, it gives you that sort of, that initial charge of I even woke up and did this and now the world's my oyster. I can do anything,
It's getting, it's getting past that friction point, that point of friction. You're trying to escape your subconscious mind. Because what a lot of the like artwork and music and all the creative fields, they're labor. It's a lot more work than people understand. Like a lot more work. You're always training. You're always training.
Oh yeah.
And like other fields, you could stop training. Like doctors, they don't necessarily have to keep reading new literature.
Wait, why is it called practicing then?
They should be.
Isn't it like some of them? Yeah, they like are still doing old procedures when they're not privy to new procedures. Because
that's kind of scary.
But like a lot of fields, that's changing now. Though with like the technology, you're almost being thrusted into this field where you have to kind of keep your edge sharp, right? But you got to get past that point of friction, escape that subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind just wants that coffee and wants that extra 5 minutes, and then after that 5 minutes, it's like I just want that extra. I want 5 more minutes.
Yes, it's never satisfied, never happy.
No,
and you almost got to like trick it, and you just got to do the sucky things to get the outcome, because if you want to be an expert at something, you have to put in the hours.
Yeah.
So you might be gifted in the sense that it might take you half the amount of hours of an average person, right? You might be able to pick it up real quick, which is great. But what if you're a person who it takes double the hours of training than an average person, but you really want to be that, you really want that skill. You're going to have to double down on the hard work, and you're going to have to be motivated to do it. But then again, motivation is only going to bring you so far. So there's other things that are you got to facilitate.
Actually, that's a fantastic segue, because another question I had is, what do you do when you fall down? What do you do when the motivated part of yourself doesn't win that day? Because I mean, I'm assuming that throughout your life you have not won all of these battles.
Get really, really sad.
Oh no!
Like,
do you beat yourself
like
up?
self-defeatist would be pretty. Yeah, I do. Like curse myself, get frustrated, and then what happens is it's like a prophecy where like, well, then you miss the next day and the next day, and then sometimes I'll bounce back where I don't miss twice. I miss it one day and then I'm back on it the next day. I've gotten better at that now, but in the past, it was much easier to throw me off track.
Well, because that perfectionism is hard to escape. It's just it's always with you.
I don't know if I'm actually not much of a perfectionist, or maybe I am. I don't. Maybe I don't even know it.
Well, and like it comes in different forms and stuff like that, but the perfectionism thing is kind of throwing up your hands at it, where it's like, it goes hand in hand with the defeatism, where it's like, you really, you want to do it right so badly that if you don't do it right, then
you do nothing at all.
Exactly. Then it's like, well, then it's all for nothing, and you go down the tubes. Yeah.
I'll typically want to do it at that specific time. Right. If I don't miss that pocket of time, I've lost it, because there's no other time other than the only time if I miss that pocket of time, then I totally
get that.
It would mean that if I miss it, then if I want to do it that day, it means I'm going to be up till in the AM, and it's going to cause a cascaded effect where I'm
Right,
just
a
going to be more
spiral.
tired the next day.
Yes.
And then I'm probably going to miss that next day because I'm equally or more tired than the day before.
That is
And
so
I'm
true.
just cascading in this positive feedback loop. So so sometimes I'll reset, just go to bed earlier or try to salvage what you can for the rest of the day.
I get caught in that quite a bit because throughout any time during my day, it can be completely thrown off. Something happens. I got to deal with something else. And then what I had planned for that hour or for that time, there's nowhere else to put it. There's nowhere else to say, okay, now I'm going to work on this 36 by 36 canvas for 2 hours or an hour and a half when my time now is already blown because life is going on and you've got responsibilities and you have a family and or whatever the situation is. And I find myself trying to put it in at the back end because I'm a night owl. So I start to get really creative at night. So I'm like, oh yeah, so I'm all excited sometimes to then go work on it at night, but then it kills me in the morning. And then I'm back on this. Yeah. I'm back on this loop again where now I'm up at 6 a.m. for the kids, but I didn't get to bed till super late.
Yeah.
And now I'm up, but I'm useless.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
my brain is not on full power.
And it's hard because it's like, you do at night, especially, you do get that uninterrupted time. You can get that 4 hours, and that 4 hours can be golden.
It can be, but the mental thing to it is the biggest part. Is like, it's not just the time that you're by yourself and you've got this uninterrupted time. It's like, for me, I feel like my brain waves are doing something totally different at night than what it does during the day. Yeah. So I have been more productive at night throughout my entire life. Like, I know that this is just a part of what I've had to deal with. So now I have to be, amongst the living because kids go to school. Kids go to school during the day. So yeah, it's hard.
So there was an epiphany I just had when you were talking about that. Is the idea of, okay, well, wait a second. What if you split the difference? What if basically you go and like only have you like schedule out 2 zombie days a week? That you go and then you stay up like the night before till whenever and get as much work as physically possible done.
Yeah, I've thought about that.
But then basically just like put 2 days, put 2 days on the sacrificial altar just to gut open and just say, and I'm just going to be miserable and it's going to be fine. And
I'm just gonna,
I mean, you have to embrace the suck. That's the
embrace that suck.
It sounds so bad when you guys say it.
It's probably pretty awful to stay up that late and then have the function throughout the day. Like it's also like it's one of the terrible things being an artist, and because a lot of artists are night owls, and like you got to function in like the regular business hours as well.
Yes,
you got to live in that world, but you're also jumping into the actual state of productivity that a lot of artists are in, which is late at night.
Well,
and
there's also sleep suppressing drugs, right?
That
like fighter pilots take, and you can
like
stay up for like 2 days or something like that.
Don't. We're not condoning. We're not condoning sleep suppressant drugs, but it's different. Ryan, it's different. Like the creativity is different than like the business mode. Like, is this something that you deal with? Like, I can be up from 7 a.m. until 5 p.m. and be fine if I'm working, but in the business aspect of my art, all the things that need to be done on the work level. But when it comes to really starting to get into the flow for the creative side, it's really more at night. All my best work literally was me waking up in the middle of the night and going downstairs, sneaking off and waking up and doing art like 2 a.m.
Oh yeah. No, I identify with that too. That's the thing. Yeah. Well,
do you ever sneak out of bed, Matt, go downstairs?
I have not
start painting
in forever. I don't actually. I'm like I look forward to the bed. I don't really have that.
Once you're in the bed, you are not looking to get out. You are like,
you're in
my
it for the
kid
long
is
haul.
sleeping. No, I totally understand that.
I've conditioned myself. I've conditioned myself to wake up early. And like I used to be a late, like I used to be a late artist, like not late artist, but like a night owl where I started late, folks. No, I used to be a night owl where I'd stay up late and work through the night till like 2 a.m. But reality hit me as like I can't work my jobs at all if I'm going to do like my real like my jobs. To that feed me food or not, the jobs doesn't feed me food. The money that they give me.
What are these food feeding jobs that you're talking about? I want these jobs.
Congratulations, Matt. Here's a week's worth of food.
Now we're going to feed it to you.
No. But yeah, it was just not it's not sustainable for me at this point in my life. Maybe in the future I might be able to switch back and pivot back to that kind of lifestyle. But right now I just can't. And I think I used to do that a couple times. Like if I had some ideas that were in my mind, I'd go to the office and like sketch out some ideas, maybe write some of those things that were kind of pulling at my mind at the time, and then I just try to basically let go of those thoughts and put them somewhere else, like reallocate them subconsciously onto a surface. They're there.
Yeah, basically, like I took care of it. That's done now. Going to bed now.
Yeah, they're offloaded and they're there, and I can go back to bed. But I haven't done that in a while, mainly because I'm typically mentally shot, physically shot by the end of the day.
Yeah. And I think I've been encountering that more and more too, where it's just like I just don't. By the end of the day, I'm like, unless I catch some sort of like awesome second wind and can stay up till super late. It's just no. I'm just mentally I'm exhausted. Just there's nothing left.
And the mental part as well. Like art for me, I don't know for other individuals, it's incredibly labor intensive and like mentally labor intensive. Like I'm tired after drawing, because I've been looking at things and observing and thinking about where those things, those values are on the drawing. And after a while, you that's fatiguing. I was trying to say, I often said it's like, imagine just sitting down for 4 hours and doing math problems. After a while, you get be fatigued. And for someone who doesn't do math, like even more, you would be even more tired after that, right? It's like, oh gosh.
Oh,
actually, do more.
The one that I found too is so like I get a lot of energy from making art when I'm like producing people, because that's one of the things that gives me so much passion and energy and love for what I'm doing is when I'm like in the studio producing someone, getting a great performance out of them and curating it super well. And then like when I have like a 6-hour session like that, when I'm just on and I'm going, and then afterwards it's just like this kind of this high, but it's almost like it's weird because I'm just like, oh, I am done. I am just spent. And I feel great, but it's like, I am just that's all that's left.
Your head's light. You got a light. You're like, you have a lightheaded.
Yeah. It's almost this, like that runner's high head rush thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you get that, Karlana, or no?
No,
you don't get you don't get lightheaded from working so long.
No, I don't.
Or get really, really enthused about a project or something, or
I'm totally hyper. I mean, I'm like, I totally get into the zone in that way. But I think, if I'm sitting here and thinking about how I looked at working or how I worked with other people during my project, it has changed a lot in the past year, and has changed a lot in the past 2 years, since I transitioned from being, a photographer fully into art. Whereas when I was a photographer, I think I really was hyper like that when I was working and was feeding off of other people and constant that constant sensory, not overload, but it's constantly having communication and back and forth, and you're always collaborating, and as a photographer, it's this constant collaboration. So it's different as an artist. Right now, I'm working with clients, but I'm working with them completely different than I did when I was full-time photographer. Right. So my motivation has changed, my process has changed, and so also how I get excited about things seems to have changed as well. Like I can be in the zone and focused, but I don't get that high that you were talking about because there's no other. I'm not bouncing off the walls by myself, I guess I could say. You know what I mean? Like I need people to feed with, to be, to have that energy with. And sometimes I'm just in the studio by myself, throwing brushes around. So
throwing brushes.
Like literally.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Throwing brushes at my canvas, doing all kinds of crap. So, but that's what excites me. I mean, but it pretty low key compared to you.
Wait,
guys,
are you actually throwing brushes at your canvases?
Sometimes.
Do you make sound effects when you throw brushes?
I do. I make all kinds of sound effects by myself. I've got these. Yeah. No.
I was going to say, I also make sound effects by myself.
Somehow this conversation is turning.
Oh no! It's churning. It's great.
It's churning.
But I do think that we are at the end of our time block.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. No, so it's probably time to go and pack it in. Karlana, would you like to lead us out on our last episode of 20 or first season of How Do Artists? Yeah.
Yes, our first season. Thank you so much for being our guest, Matt. This has been so delightful and such a lot of fun talking with you, and we really appreciate it. And so I wanted to thank our listeners for the final episode of season 1. Thank you for taking this journey with us this entire time. To our listeners and to everyone who has supported us, thank you for participating in our show today. And thank you again to Matt Pierson. Matt, will you tell everyone where they can find you and your website and all that good stuff?
First off, I just want to say thank you for having me. I really do appreciate everything that you do. And it was really nice that, you had me onto your show. I was a bit nervous, and we managed to lasso it around somehow.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So if you want to find me, it's all my social media handles are Matt Pierson Art. So if you want to find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, there's some other ones I don't know.
All the same handle, Matt Pierson?
Yeah, all Matt Pierson Art, MattPierson Art. And that's my website as well. So you just add a .com if you'd like. And then there you go. You can find me. Pretty much like the first person. If you search me on Google, it's like the first person now on the page. On like
very good.
On like where it goes ooh gold. I'm like the first O.
Oh.
Do they still do the ooh? Or they either have like lots of O's or they stop doing the lots of O's.
I don't know.
I'm gonna look this up actually.
Because you used to be able to search.
Plug your podcast too.
Oh,
they do the ooze. They do the ooze.
They do the oogles.
Yeah.
Where they have multiple O's. Yeah. I also do a weekly artist interview, either every Thursday or Sunday, depending on how I can schedule it, at 7:45 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate you.
Well,
thanks so much.
Oh, thank you so much. And we're going to be back on. We're not sure exactly when the next season is starting, but it will be, I believe, in the summer, late summer, early fall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But
all
we
right.
definitely will be scheduling. So we'll be still working on it for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thank you everyone who tuned in. Thank you everyone who's listening online. Yeah, and we will see you next time.